Order the special council meeting of Monday, June 1st, 2026. Grimsby is situated on treaty land. This land is steeped in the rich history of the First Nations such as the Hattaway-Undurong, the Haudenosaunee, and the Anishinaabe, including the Mississaugas of the Credit First Nation. There are many First Nations, Métis, and Inuit people from across Turtle Island that live and work in Niagara today. The regional municipality of Niagara and the town of Grimsby stand with all Indigenous people, past and present, in promoting the wise stewardship of the lands on which we live. Are there any disclosures of pecuniary or non-pecuniary interest? Seeing none, can I have a mover and seconder to approve the agenda? Moved by Councillor Vardy, second by Councillor Frake. Resolved that the agenda for the June 1st, 2026 special council meeting be approved. All in favor? That's carried. Our first delegation this evening is Mike Collins-Williams. Mike, please come to the podium.
Thank you. That was quick. Mayor and members of council, thank you for the opportunity to speak this evening. My name is Mike Collins-Williams, CEO of the West End Home Builders Association, and I'm also a registered professional planner. WHP represents more than 300 companies involved in land development and residential construction across Hamilton, Burlington, and Grimsby. Our members are the people responsible for delivering housing this region urgently needs, as well as being a major employer supporting well-paying jobs right here in this community. I first want to acknowledge the significant amount of work town staff have undertaken throughout this official plan review process. There have been extensive consultation and thoughtful effort put into the draft before council. WHB appreciates being included in the engagements, and we appreciated the detailed and technical conversations we've had over the last several months with the planning department. However, despite a number of improvements, WHBA remains concerned that the proposed official plan is still too rigid, too prescriptive, and in several key areas inconsistent with the province's clear direction to support increasing housing supply, supporting higher levels of intensification, and streamlined planning approvals. If Grimsby wants to achieve its housing objectives, especially around the GO station and protected major transit station areas, the official plan must provide greater flexibility in built form opportunities, design, and development standards. Transit-oriented communities only succeed when municipalities allow sufficient density to support them. The province is making a major investment with the GO station here in Grimsby, and it is the town's responsibility to enable transit-oriented communities through public policy. Across Ontario, municipalities are increasingly recognizing this reality. The City of Mississauga, for example, has embraced more flexible built-form policies around its transit station areas to encourage higher density and mixed-use communities. Vaughan Metropolitan Centre is another example where planning policy intentionally supports larger scale intensification around higher order transit through flexible urban design frameworks. Even closer to home, Hamilton continues to evolve its approach to intensification around transit corridors in major growth areas. Grimsby has a tremendous opportunity around the GO station area, but that opportunity can only be realized if the official plan enables economically viable development. As such, WHB remains concerned that the proposed 4-story maximum in portions of the TOD village area south of the QEW is far too restrictive. We question why the town is proposing a reduction from the original allocation of 6 stories. Transit-oriented development requires meaningful density. Limiting height too aggressively undermines the very purpose of intensification around transit infrastructure. The province is investing in Grimsby. It is important that Grimsby respond to that public investment by enabling private investment. A couple of comments on built form. WHBA strongly recommends increasing the maximum residential floor plate to 900 square meters from the proposed 800. Slightly larger floor plates enable more economically viable buildings that will encourage larger family-sized units. From a construction standpoint, smaller floor plates is much less efficient as a larger percentage of the floor plate is occupied by service corridors, staircases, and elevators. A slightly larger floor plate improves building efficiently and thus economic viability as well as livability by creating opportunities for those larger units. The proposed angular plane requirements will create significant barriers to delivering affordable, sustainable, and economically viable development. While intended to manage transition between buildings Angular planes are an overly rigid built form control that does not reflect the realities of contemporary mid and high-rise design. These requirements can severely constrain building massing, reduce design flexibility, and limit achievable density, often resulting in inefficient floor plates, compromised unit layouts, and higher construction costs without a corresponding public benefit. WHB recommends replacing angular plane requirements with more flexible approaches, such as podium design or setbacks above certain height, which can achieve appropriate transition while supporting practical and viable development outcomes. As a professional planner, I will note that angular planes were sort of the flavor of the day in previous decades, but have been falling out of favor in many cities and towns across North America. WHB is also concerned that the proposed parkland policies are overly restrictive and do not reflect the province's recent direction toward greater flexibility and practicality in parkland delivery. In particular, we question the requirement that parkettes can only be accepted where they create connections rather than in smaller standalone spaces. Small parkettes can still serve as a valuable, functional public open spaces, especially in compact urban environments such as around the future GO station area, where opportunities for larger parks may be limited. Additionally, the proposed increase in parkette size requirements from 0.1 hectares in the previous draft to a target of 0.25 hectares and up to 0.5 hectares may unnecessarily limit practical parkland solutions within intensification areas. Through Bill 23 and Bill 98, the province has clearly emphasized that parkland should be evaluated based on functionality, accessibility, and contribution to the public realm, rather than rigid standards related to size, configuration, or network connections. Smaller parkettes, urban plazas, and privately owned public spaces, otherwise known as POPs, can all play an important role in creating vibrant, walkable communities and supporting intensification objectives around transit and growth areas. There are active Ministry of Municipal Affairs and Housing Environmental Registry postings active right now that are consulting on these very issues. I'm concerned that if the proposals in the Grimsby official plan may conflict with provincial policy before the ink is even dry. Finally, I want to touch on climate resiliency and energy efficiency. WHB certainly supports the objective of encouraging climate resilient and energy efficient buildings. We support policies that incentivize innovation and sustainability while still recognizing the province's direction on limiting mandatory municipal green development standards. There's an important balance to strike between environmental objectives and housing affordability. The industry is already innovating rapidly in such areas as building efficiency, sustainable materials, electric vehicle infrastructure, and climate adaptation. But flexibility must remain part of the conversation so that sustainability goals do not unintentionally create additional barriers to housing delivery. At the end of the day, all of these issues connect back to one central question, which is, will this official plan enable housing or make it harder to build? WHB believes Grimsby can achieve good planning, strong urban design, sustainability objectives, and intensification simultaneously, but only if the framework remains flexible, practical, and focused on outcomes. We respectfully urge Council to continue refining this official plan to ensure it supports the housing supply, transit-oriented growth, and economic realities facing municipalities across Ontario today. Thank you very much for your time.
Thank you for your presentation, Mike. Questions from Council? Councillor Sharwal.
Through Mayor Duran, thank you. Thank you for coming. Just clarity on your questions. Now, as you know, there are 3 development areas. Now, you discussed more so areas related to the GO. So is this more density at the GO, or are you in agreement that we'd like to kind of leave our more established areas alone, or is this a blanket statement through all of Grimsby?
The focus should be within the GO station areas and downtown. That being said, we do think there are opportunities for gentle intensification within some of the existing communities. And by that, I mean, not building towers, not building mid-rises, but having opportunities for fourplexes, small town home developments, things that create a diversity of opportunities. We all know that housing is getting more and more expensive in most communities in Ontario, including Grimsby. So having a diversity of opportunities enables young people just starting out to sort of get their foot in the door and have that ground-oriented housing with a patch of grass, maybe space for a barbecue to raise a family in Grimsby. One other area that we see an opportunity within existing communities is sort of that small-scale retail, a corner store, something like that. You do have some aging 1970s plazas that are sort of bordering on or just in communities, and there may be some opportunities for, I'll call it small-scale intensification there that does still fit within the character of the neighborhood, but providing more opportunities than just single-family homes.
Thank you for clarifying that. So to your one point, I just wanted to clarify, because you had said that the province has invested greatly in GO Transit, and I would say for a community of 30,000 people, Grimsby taxpayers have significantly invested in the infrastructure for all of these developments that are not here yet. So this is the organization you are representing. So we have financially invested an incredible amount for all of this. So we are very welcoming to all of this. I would say personally, and I can't speak for all of council, but there seems to be more of an agreement as far as the flexibility towards the GO train area. So I think if you're bringing this back to the people, you're going to find that the plans are a little more flexible there for a lot of the things that you've discussed. And I would agree that I think maybe a 900 square foot plan is possibly more desirable than 800, and I would probably support that. The problem is when you start impeding on the established areas and chipping away at the parkland. So again, I'm just one vote here, but I think if you want to make it an easier go, then touch on the density in the GO train area.
Yeah, as I said, that's the focus. We see some opportunities for communities to evolve over time with some of that flexibility. And, I empathize with everybody around the council table that growth and planning really is about change management and a recognition that our communities are changing and evolving over time. And it's how do you manage that change over time, recognizing that communities should not necessarily stay static and frozen in time.
Sorry, just to add, I don't think anybody here is expecting anything's going to be frozen in time. I personally, I've probably been the one to be the most as far as pushing back a little bit. It's because I love this town and I want to make sure that everything is done, in a way that suits everybody that's already here. So it's just good planning. So that's, again, I think if you're focusing on really intensifying an area, GO Train would probably be your easiest bet. So thank you for coming.
Any other questions from council? Seeing none, thank you very much for your presentation, Mike. Up next, we have Michelle
Thank you.
Seaburn. Good evening, Councillor.
Good afternoon, and thank you for the opportunity. This isn't turned on yet, is it? Yes. It is? Thank you. Thank you for the opportunity to speak to our new recommended official plan. As a longtime resident of Grimsby, I understand the importance of official plans in guiding change within our community. They are among the most important documents a municipality creates because they shape how our town will grow, develop, and evolve for decades to come. Prior to 2012, when the current official plan was being drafted, I was fortunate to serve as a community member on GDAC, which at the time operated under the Planning and Development umbrella. We had a small role to play in the creation of the official plan, particularly regarding employment opportunities, economic development, and the pressures associated with growth. One of the key principles that emerged from that work was that growth should occur where it makes more sense. The west end of Grimsby was identified as our primary area for intensification. The former Place Polonaise site, the former Fifth Wheel, the future GO station were the logical choices for the higher density development, employment opportunities, and the more walkable community. Access to the QEW made the area particularly well-suited to accommodate growth. The Winston Road secondary plan and subsequent planning around the GO station reflected that vision. We've already seen some of the vision take place through the Grimsby on the Lake area. While other significant projects, including the GO station area and surrounding development, remain unfinished, the West End still represents the best long-term strategy for directing higher density growth in the area. I mention this because it highlights an important principle. Growth itself is not the issue. Poorly managed growth is the issue. The purpose of an official plan is not to stop change, it's to shape change in a way that reflects the community's values. Most residents understand that Grimsby will continue to grow. The question is whether the growth is planned carefully, supported by infrastructure, respectful of the existing neighborhoods, and reflective of the communities the way we want them to become. I was pleased to participate in several consultation sessions during the development of the new official plan. Having reviewed the plan, I want to acknowledge the tremendous amount of work that's gone into it. Planning policy continues to evolve at the province, and adapting to those changes is no easy task. There are 3 areas, however, that I'd like to comment on today. The first is Grimsby Beach. This neighborhood contains heritage.
Michelle, I just want to clarify, because the last official plan was actually adopted in 2009.
In
2009, not 2012.
Thank you for the clarification. I was still part of that one. 3 areas I would like to comment on today. The first is Grimsby Beach. This neighborhood contains a heritage that is truly unique, not just within Grimsby, but across Canada. Its character, history, and development pattern help define who we are in a community. I trust that staff is doing everything they can to protect that heritage, and I commend them for the work they've already done. However, updating and consolidating planning documents must be done in a way that remains clear, enforceable, and visible to the residents. However, saying there's no change to the intent of the policy is not necessarily the same as demonstrating that those protections themselves remain equally clear and enforceable as they were when they were first adopted. Residents deserve a clear understanding of exactly what is going to change in this area now that the new official plan has been proposed and envisioned as a secondary plan. Excuse me. The second area I would like to comment on is population growth and intensity. Most residents understand that Grimsby is going to continue to grow. However, I do not support a population forecast of 51,000 residents contained within the recommended official plan and what it means for how we grow. In my view, that forecast reflects a vision of growth that is inconsistent with both Grimsby's physical restraints and the town's planned work. The intensification strategy completed by the town last year examined multiple growth scenarios and identified a sustained growth scenario of 13,900 new residents. This is less than the more aggressive target of 51,000. That aggressive forecast is based upon a Markham-style growth for Grimsby, where we grow from the center out, which means intensification in the downtown, which is inconsistent with what most of the community wants. I believe a sustained growth scenario of the study better reflects how residents want Grimsby to evolve. This brings me to my final concern, and that's building heights in the downtown. Excuse me. The population forecast matters because it directly influences the scale of development contemplated by the official plan. The recommended official plan permits building heights of up to 12 stories in the downtown, subject to conditions such as visual impact assessments. I don't support that approach. I understand that councillors have become frustrated with the decisions of the Ontario Land Tribunal. However, I'm concerned that with the combination of aggressive population forecasts and broadly worded height policies, that they may unintentionally strengthen the position of developers seeking approvals that many residents would consider inappropriate. This is not in setting the town up for successful OLT. The problem is not simply height itself. The problem is the language intended to protect the community character and is not always specific enough for what must be preserved. What views are we preserving? What streetscapes are we preserving? What characteristics define success? Without being specific, developers can argue that their proposals satisfy the intent of the official plan, even when residents believe fundamentally that changes the character of the area. If council intends to permit these heights, the policy should be far more specific about what must be achieved and protected. My preference, however, would be simpler. Just limit the building heights south of Main Street to 6 stories. I recognize that intensification has always been anticipated in the downtown, but when the current official plan was adopted, few people could have predicted the level of growth pressure Grimsby would receive. The level of intensification contemplated in the recommended plan is too aggressive for the downtown area. Some of that growth should be instead directed towards the GO Station area and other locations that were identified as more appropriate places for intensification. Throughout the official plan, we are reminded that one of Grimsby's defining characteristics are unique location between Lake Ontario and the Niagara Escarpment. One of the most recognizable views in our community is the view of the escarpment from Main Street looking up Mountain Street. Residents know that view. Visitors know that view. It appears in photographs, promotional materials, and countless images that help define Grimsby's identity. Let's not hide behind 12-story buildings. Good planning is ultimately about balance. Balancing growth with infrastructure, balancing development with heritage, and balancing new opportunities with qualities that make people proud to call Grimsby home. Most importantly, good planning requires listening to residents and bringing people together around a shared vision for the future. I appreciate the tremendous effort that has gone into preparing the official plan. A document of more than 400 pages is no small undertaking, particularly in an environment where the provincial policy continues to evolve. The decisions made through the official plan will shape Grimsby for long after we've left this room. We have the responsibility to accommodate growth, but we also have the responsibility to preserve the qualities that make Grimsby worth living. Thank you for your time, and thank you for the opportunity to share with you my visions.
Thank you for your presentation. Questions from council? Seeing none,
Thank you.
up next we have Bridget Malloy. Bridget, please come to the podium.
Good evening, Mayor, members of council, and neighbors. My name is Bridget Malloy, and I'm a Ward 3 resident. I'm speaking tonight regarding the draft official plan and specifically the downtown district policies. Earlier in this process, I appeared before council to express concerns about the wording of the draft official plan. My concern was not about growth itself. My concern was whether the plan clearly and predictably communicates where intensification is intended to occur and on what level of certainty residents can rely on when reading it. At that time, I noted that many policies related to compatibility, transition, neighborhood character, and built form relied heavily on should rather than shall. My concern was simple. Residents need to know which policies are requirements and which are merely guidance.
I'm just going to raise this.
Of course, yeah.
So that one, you don't have to strain your
Got
eyesight,
it.
and two, you're a little closer to the mic. There you go.
Thank you. I raised the issue again tonight because recent discussions regarding downtown building heights demonstrate exactly why policy wording matters. The draft official plan identifies downtown Grimsby as an important cultural, civic, commercial, and heritage focal point. Yet residents are facing a fact that many members of council sought to reduce mid-rise permissions from 12 stories to approximately 7 to 8 stories. The wording, unfortunately, may still allow approvals up to 12 stories. If council's vision is truly a downtown built form of 7 or 8 stories, then the official plan should clearly reflect that vision. Planning decisions are not based on intentions. They are based on adopted policy language. Future developers, future councils, planning staff, and potentially tribunals will rely on the words contained in this document. If the official plan says council may approve 12 stories, then that possibly remains part of the planning framework, regardless of the intentions expressed during the review process. This concern is particularly important given the recent sale of lands on John Street. Residents are understandably paying very close attention to how the official plan addresses height, density, transition, and compatibility in the downtown area. Public confidence depends on transparency, consistency, and clear policy direction. I'm also concerned about the broader planning environment currently in Ontario. Recent provincial initiatives have increasingly centralized planning authority and expanded the ability of provincial decision makers to accelerate development approvals. Whether one agrees with those changes or not, they create additional uncertainty regarding how local planning decisions may be made in the future. In that context, the official plan becomes even more important. If future councils, provincial authorities, or other decision makers are granted greater powers over development approvals, then the wording adopted in this official plan today becomes critically important. Residents may have fewer opportunities in the future to influence individual development proposals. As a result, that's okay. As a result, it is essential that the official plan contain clear, enforceable direction regarding height, transition, compatibility, heritage conservation, and neighborhood character. That is why I continue to believe that discretionary language such as should and may must be used carefully, particularly where council's intent is to establish meaningful limits or protections. I'm also concerned that discretionary language continues to appear in areas where residents expect certainty. Policies intended to protect neighborhood character, heritage context, and appropriate transition should be written as requirements wherever possible. Residents need to know what outcomes are expected, not simply what outcomes are encouraged. The decisions made through this official plan will guide Grimsby's growth till 2051. Once permissions are embedded in the official plan, they become difficult, if not impossible, to revisit. Once heritage character is gone, it cannot be restored. I support growth and intensification. However, growth should respect the heritage, pedestrian scale, and unique character that make downtown Grimsby the heart of the community. If council's intent is a downtown built form in the range of 7 or 8 stories, then I respectfully ask council to ensure that the official plan clearly reflects that intent, rather than leaving open the possibility of 12-story development through discretionary wording. Residents should not have to guess what the official plan means. Thank you for your time and consideration.
Thank you for your presentation, Bridget. Questions from council? Seeing none, up next we have Sarah Nixon. Sarah, please come to the podium.
How'd you do that thing to lower this? Okay, thank you. Okay, thank you so much. So just to start off, I want to just be transparent in saying that I am a museum professional and I do currently serve as the chair of the Grimsby Heritage Advisory Committee. But today I am delegating as a resident and I'm here to speak on the official plan as it relates to the downtown district specifically. But first, I would like to thank town staff and members of council for the earnest work in developing Envision Grimsby 2051 in dialogue with the Grimsby Grimsby community. I understand that this is no easy task, especially amidst substantial changes to provincial planning regulation and how this greatly impacts how we guide our communities. I see the efforts to be transparent, provide public education, and invite community input in the process. And having the opportunity to participate in many consultations, I do appreciate this. When it comes to the framework to guide change in Grimsby's downtown district, I'm urging council today to further strengthen our controls and language in the official plan to ensure that the character, identity, and feel of our downtown remains intact, prominent, and celebrated by 2051. Taking a holistic approach to upholding the built, cultural, and natural heritage of downtown is paramount to ensuring our distinct identity and sense of place. Currently, in the draft official plan, there is language about the importance of the relationship between the Niagara Escarpment and Lake Ontario in guiding development. I'm referring specifically to section 5.3 on the built form framework, and I appreciate that draft 3 of the plan requires new mid and high-rise developments to be assessed in relation to the escarpment and Lake Ontario, but I feel this language is not strong enough in assessing these developments against each other and within context of the whole skyline. Each new 6- and 8-story development alters the townscape as a whole. There is even a clause permitting the possibility of developing a building that rises up to 12 stories, and I wonder if this wouldn't create precedent for another, and how this would then stand up in an OLT hearing. Draft 3 also has reduced building height maximums for the downtown neighborhood to a maximum of 8 stories and strengthened the language for new developments in the downtown village. I'm urging for building heights and density to be reduced further, a maximum of 4 stories across the downtown district. Otherwise, we risk the very character of our historic town, which, as is alluded in the plan, is intrinsically tied to the escarpment, lake, and I would also argue 40 Mile Creek, which is the reason why people settled here in the first place. To be clear, I support development in the downtown district. Development brings new people to support local businesses. It's an impetus to invest in and nurture creativity and enrichment. And downtowns should be vibrant and lively, and new development will enable this. Rather, I'm asking for a scaled back intensification that still speaks to the character and feel of the downtown district. The area around the future GO station is already identified for sharply increased density and building heights, and we're already sacrificing the relationship, the escarpment and lake there. So why sacrifice the heart of the town, where our oldest heritage homes, mostly intact historic Main Street, landmark churches, train station, trails, park space, it's all here. And these are the landmarks and natural gateways of the town. And in fact, to me, the most quintessentially Grimsby gateway is the view of the escarpment overlooking the town when you look onto any of the streets heading south. Section 5.2 on the general public realm frameworks refers to the importance of placemaking, gateways, and the addition of landmarks in the third draft. I'm very glad to see this, as this is essential to preserving the town's character. Our landmarks, prominent views, and gateways already exist and should be enhanced. As chair of the Heritage Committee, I know that we're working very hard to designate the buildings of historic significance across Grimsby for the very reason that they contribute to our place, to our sense of place here. However, as it's worded now, Section 5.3 on the general built form framework, and more specifically Section 5.4.2 on mixed use development in the downtown district, does not seem to be in direct conversation with the concepts set out when discussing the landmarks. I fear that this opens for contradiction and should be addressed. Otherwise, new developments risk dwarfing the historic character of downtown that we've been working tirelessly to protect and celebrate through heritage designations. My request here is to more specifically identify the landmarks and gateways we are collectively wishing to preserve, and to explicitly reference designated heritage buildings within this. There is mention through the plan on the importance of trails, walkable mixed-use streets, ease of transportation, views of the escarpment, but I don't see these actually talking to one another in direct and deliberate ways across the sections. In Section 7 on infrastructure and transportation, it does not sufficiently consider how increased density in the downtown district will impact how people will actually move through downtown, whether on foot, bike, car, or bus. These guidances seem isolated from one another. So to summarize, I've come here this evening to urge council to reduce the maximum building heights across the downtown district to 4 stories to preserve the natural, cultural, and built heritage essential to Grimsby, and to ask town staff to implement stronger language to better connect the guidances in the official plan related to building height, density, streetscapes, and multimodal transportation more clearly in order to remove contradiction and close loopholes left open to interpretation. Thank you for the opportunity to speak, and thank you once again for the efforts put into making this official plan.
Thank you for your presentation. Sarah, questions from council? Councilor Howe.
Again, through you, Chair. Sarah, when you talk about the build, and you probably know better than I, but when it comes to construction, and we're talking about trying to complement what's already down there. And when I was going through some of that plan, but I came across one page on Appendix D where it talks about the province, this is the province, remove the ability for site plan to regulate colors, materials, and finishes of proposals. In other words, so they can be compatible and so maybe if we could tighten that up, we can, but the province, and you know better than I do what the province has done to us. They took away the pre-consult, which probably the most easy way to start the ball rolling in the right direction, get somebody straightened out. They take that away, so let's not talk to them. And then they've taken it down to site plan to be one person. So they're making it very difficult to fight, the other guy. But thank you for listening.
Seeing no further questions from council, thank you very much for your presentation, Sarah. There are also tonight written delegations from Adam Mottershead, Sharon Porter, and Kevin Luchenheisen that are on the agenda and included in public record. Can I have a mover and seconder to receive the delegations? Moved by Councillor DeFlavio, second by Councillor Vardy. Resolved that all verbal and written delegations on the council agenda but the draft official plan be received. All in favor? That's carried. Up next, we move to presentations. We have Alexis and Ute from O2 Planning and Design to speak to the draft official plan. Please come to the podium.
All right, good evening, Your Worship and members of council. My name is Alexis Beal, and I'm here with Ute Maya Giambattista on behalf of O2 Planning and Design. We're here this evening to provide an update on the draft official plan and the work that has been completed to date. The presentation will walk through the key milestones, the policy and legislative framework, the major items addressed in the draft official plan, the engagement completed through the process, and the key directions reflected in the plan. So this presentation is organized around the main components of the official plan review. We will begin with the project milestones and where we are in the process, followed by the policy and the plan review, including recent provincial changes and the work completed to align the draft official plan with the regional planning framework. We will then review the key draft official plan items, summarize public engagement, and walk through the plan's pillars, growth management approach, town structure, recommendations, and next steps. And you can stay on this slide for a second. The official plan review has moved through several phases, beginning with visioning, followed by policy directions, preparation of the plan, and review of the draft official plan. Key milestones have included public engagement opportunities, preparation of the official plan, and then releasing the 3 drafts to the official plan to the public. Tonight's council meeting is an important point in the process, as we are now moving from consultation and refinement towards finalizing the plan, with the final version expected to come forward to council in July 2026. Go to the next slide. The provincial planning framework has continued to evolve while we've been preparing the draft official plan. A number of recent provincial bills have changed the broader municipal planning environment, including Bills 23, 97, 185, and more recently, Bill 98. These changes reflect the province's continued focus on increasing housing supply, streamlining planning approvals, updating appeal rights and municipal processes, supporting additional residential units, and changing certain planning infrastructure and financial tools available to municipalities. For this draft official plan, that meant we needed to continue reviewing the document as the provincial framework changed, particularly in relation to growth management, housing intensification, implementation tools, and how municipalities are expected to plan for complete communities and infrastructure. Another key provincial change that was introduced under Bill 98 is the province's direction to remove the standalone secondary plans and incorporate them into the official plan, and then update those to reflect the current provincial framework. Accordingly, several key areas, including Kemp and Mountain Road, Winston Road neighborhood, and the Grimsby GO Transit Station and Grimsby Beach, have been integrated directly into the plan. This approach establishes a single coordinating planning document for the municipality. From a regional standpoint, provincial changes have also affected how planning responsibilities are structured in Niagara. As of March 31st, 2025, the Niagara official plan is no longer a regional plan and is now considered Grimsby's second official plan. As part of preparing the draft official plan, we have had to review the applicable regional policies and schedules and determine how they should be carried forward, integrated, refined, or implemented through Grimsby's new local official plan. This has included aligning with regional direction on growth management, settlement areas, employment lands, agricultural and rural areas, natural heritage, infrastructure, transportation, intensification, and the GO Station area, while also ensuring the local official plan provides clear and locally appropriate policy. We've also reviewed the draft plan against the applicable provincial and regional plans shown on this slide, including the Greenbelt Plan, the Niagara Escarpment Plan, and, as I already said, the Niagara Official Plan. Yeah. No problem. You can go to the next slide. A significant amount of feedback has been reviewed and incorporated through this process, including comments received through all engagement phases and on all 3 versions of the draft official plan. We've also considered feedback from the Niagara Peninsula Conservation Authority, Niagara Region, the province, town, staff, council, members of the public, and other interested parties. And as I mentioned above, as per provincial direction, we have also integrated the existing secondary plans into the draft OP. A major part of the work has also been updating and streamlining the policies so the plan reflects current provincial and regional direction, while also making the document clearer and more practical to use. Next slide. Public engagement has been a very significant part of the official plan process. The Planning Act sets out a minimum consultation requirement of 2 meetings for official plans. For this project, we've gone well beyond those minimum statutory requirements. To date, we have completed approximately 18 engagement opportunities. This includes various public information centers, the statutory public meeting, in-person events, town talk events, a downtown charrette, a downtown think tank, walk and talk tours, housing and affordability, community conservation, Let's Talk Grimsby surveys and polls, and then meeting with interested parties. The purpose of the engagement was not only to meet the requirements of the Planning Act, but to provide a range of meaningful opportunities for residents, agencies, and interested parties, council and staff to participate in the process. Feedback was received through each stage of the project, from the early on visioning work to the policy directions phase and straight through to the review of the draft official plan. The feedback has informed the structure of the plan, the policy directions, and the refinements now reflected in the draft official plan. Next slide. The official plan is organized around a set of pillars that describe the type of community Grimsby is planning for. One important change is the addition of the fourth pillar, compatible and responsible growth. This was added to recognize that Grimsby is expected to accommodate most future growth, infill, and intensification rather than through outward expansion. As a result, the plan needs to provide a clear direction on how growth should occur. Growth needs to respond to the surrounding community, be supported by infrastructure and services, and contribute positively to the town's overall structure. The purpose of this pillar is to recognize that growth is expected, but that it should occur in a way that is compatible, responsible, and appropriate for Grimsby's local context. Next slide. The draft official plan plans for growth to 2051, including 51,100 residents, 9,500 additional housing units, and 17,400 jobs. A key direction in the plan is that a minimum of 98% of the annual residential unit growth is directed to the urban settlement boundary. This does not mean expanding the settlement area, but rather growth is intended to be accommodated through infill, intensification, and strategic centers. This approach supports more efficient use of land and infrastructure and helps connect growth with public service facilities, transit, active transportation, parks, and community design. The plan also recognizes that growth forecasts may need to be reviewed over time. Future updates will be considered against development demand, land supply, servicing capacity, and provincial projections. Next slide. This is the town structure of the plan. It identifies where different forms and scales of growth are intended to occur. In the general neighborhood area, the plan allows for gentle intensification, primarily through additional residential units. The employment area is maintained along the QEW corridor to support long-term employment opportunities. In the agricultural area, minimal intensification is expected, but value-added and diversified agricultural uses are permitted. Neighborhood nodes and corridors provide opportunities for gentle intensification and additional uses. The health center is identified as a secondary intensification area with focus on health-related uses. The downtown district is also identified as a primary intensification area and is planned for the second highest density. The town nodes and corridors are moderate intensification areas, and the protected major transit station area is the primary intensification area with the highest densities and tallest buildings. And I'm going to pass it off to Ute to go through more specifics of the plan. You might need to move the table up.
I think it's okay. Good evening, Your Honor and members of council. I will walk you through some of the salient revisions to the official plan as it stands in its current draft. So next slide, please. So starting with the PMTSA area, it continues to be envisioned as an area that's defined by an 800-meter radius around the Grimsby GO station. It's identified as the town's primary intensification area, providing for a mix of residential, commercial, and employment uses at higher densities than the remainder of Grimsby. It's envisioned to deliver 100 persons and jobs per hectare, and it's the highest intensification envisioned for the town. In the following slide, you will see a series of updates to the land use and build form strategy. So we have the TOD innovation and incubation, which are non-residential uses, are the employment uses that frame the PMTSA area. They're envisioned to accommodate for employment uses, and they range between 4 and 6 stories maximum, just to accommodate for a range of any employment, warehousing, and any other forms of land uses that may choose to build in the area. The surrounding next big change was along the TOD village area. The maximum height now has been reduced from 6 to 3 stories, and with a permission to go to 4 stories, but limited on Livingston and Casablanca, recognizing that they are higher order streets, and they have a very different interface than local streets, which will remain at 3 stories. Then we have the second ring, which will be the TOD neighborhood. It's where Maximum height remains at 22 stories with a minimum height of 4 stories, and it's intended to support the core area, which is the TOD center, which is the tallest and densest part of a TOD development, with a minimum 60 stories and maximum 28 stories. So it effectively works in a concentric circle fashion to more or less 100 meters from the transit station. From the next slide, from the downtown area, the focus of the revisions to the plan and some of the elements that were already included in previous versions is that the downtown will continue to operate as the central hub of the town. It's outside the industrial areas is contemplated as the highest intensity or concentration of jobs. It's planned to achieve a lesser intensification than the PTSM at 125 people jobs and people per hectare. And it's further, as previously presented, divided into 4 areas. The main street will still allow for that intensification of mix of uses, and the language that encourages the adaptive reuse and preservation of the heritage building already contained or existing within the area, it's strengthened. So in the next slide, you will see that we are revising the recommendations to allow a downtown Main Street that allows for a maximum 4 stories. Is consistent with the typical Southern Ontario Main Street form. It has a permission to go to 6 meters, provided 60 stories, provided that a step back from the face of the building of minimum 3 meters, it's introduced. So when you are actually walking and experiencing the Main Street, you don't feel the presence of a 6-story building. The downtown village area has been revised to allow for a maximum height of 3 stories with flexibility for up to 4 stories subject to further site plan approval. The downtown neighborhood area has a maximum, has the height reduced from a maximum of 12 stories to 8 with site-specific permissions to go up to 12 provided certain conditions are met, and we hear the public's input on that today. There's also, I have to note in the OP, that particular clause came under the subsection of downtown neighborhood area, so it has to go back. Otherwise, it reads as if the 12-story applies to everything. So it has to be move back into the order of it's a formatting issue that we discovered today. We removed the downtown neighborhood area in the center north side of Main Street, and we still maintain the previously identified downtown innovation incubation area, which is envisioned for a mix of non-residential uses to a maximum of 10 stories. Next slide. The health center area continued to be envisioned as a secondary intensification area supporting health services that work from the synergies of the existing hospital. We removed the townhouses north of the main street as they will remain as they exist, and no further changes or provisions are envisioned. However, the health center Main Street is envisioned to allow for a maximum of 60 stories and to continue to support a mix of uses that work and make the best of the synergies with the hospital. The health center neighborhood, which is located at the back of the hospital, will allow for a maximum of 4 stories and will continue to house the assisted living facilities that are in place. And obviously, the hospital will continue to function in its current capacity. Next. A big question that came up last time that we were presenting here, and then we wanted to be pointed in introducing or highlighting it back to you, is that at least, it's on the front of housing and affordability, where at least 20% of new rental housing is to be affordable, and at least 10% of market ownership housing is to be affordable. Affordable housing is defined by both ownership and rental housing, and it's defined by the province. It will support a mix of build forms, long-term rental units, additional residential units, inclusionary zoning tools, infill, and intensification. So the efforts to expand the housing affordability has many different tools that are mentioned and listed in the official plan. So the town is well prepared to enact and support the creation of many housing opportunities for a wide range of incomes and people choosing Grimsby. A future affordable and attainable housing strategy may be commissioned to establish additional policies on this front. So that's those two. The percentages that you see are important additions into how we are envisioning that component of the official plan. Next slide. From the environment and agriculture, there were several elements that were updated. Primarily, it really focused on the encouraging the value-added agricultural uses and diversity of agricultural uses, related uses that range from agritourism or on-farm diversified uses. We revised the cannabis and hemp policies to ensure that development does not create a negative impact off-site. Move the policy restricting one dwelling on a lot to the specialty crop area from the rural and agricultural section, and added the additional residential unit policies, which was a technical glitch that we had in how we allow that additional dwelling unit. Added campground as a permit into permitted use into the rural and agricultural section. Updated environmental areas and buffers, and added wildland fire policies and mapping as requested by the province. Next slide. Moving around, the plan looks to align with the new transportation master plan. It supports the creation of a transportation network for a variety of travel modes, which at the end of the day also encourage the implementation of a transit service. It supports the enhanced local transit as well as connection to the GO station and GO transit in the future. It protects the movement of goods, and it plans the expansion of the pedestrian and cycling infrastructure in town. Next slide. One of the fine-tuned elements that we had is one of the town nodes that we have at the eastern end, the Iroquois node, where additional policies that are meant to enhance employment uses were introduced rather than leaving vague language as far as mixed use. We wanted to make sure that it continued to encourage and support employment mixed uses in that area. So that's another change that we'll see. Next slide. Other revisions and updates that have come through a series of conversations with different participants where, for example, the fine-tuning of the Grimsby Air Park policy, which were simplified to recognize the aerodrome and acknowledge federal permissions. So you will find them under Section 8 of the official plan. We adjusted policies for 149 Main Street based on the most recent OLT decision. We amended the complete application requirement list based on what the province is asking municipalities to list. We added policies to the creation of the community planning permit system, which is a new system and tool that the province put forward and municipalities can make use of in the planning of future areas in the town. We moved the build form policies that were under their own heading into the land use, so it's easier for the reader to understand what sort of building is expected and what are the parameters of that building when you're speaking of a particular area. And we added rural-urban interface, viewshed, land use compatibility, and railway-related policies which pertain to any of the lands that are immediately adjacent to the railroad corridor. Next slide. Grimsby Beach, the secondary plan was integrated into the official plan. As previously mentioned, the province has mandated that secondary plans be integrated into new moving forward official plans. So in the same vein, the Winston Road and then the GO Station secondary plans were integrated into the documents. In the case of Grimsby Beach, the policies continue to recognize the unique heritage and cultural landscape built form of place. And the direction addresses managing change. The core, south, and north character areas, land use, transportation, and the implementation of any future changes in the area will occur through zoning, site plan control, heritage tools, and public realm improvements. So it continues to have the full strength of the original secondary plan, but now migrated under the umbrella of the new official plan. Next slide. So before getting into the next steps, or maybe I should wrap up with next steps. We'll continue to receive input on this final third version until June 15, and thank you for every one of you that delegated. We also received the written delegations. We will hope to bring the final version to council in July. Then once that takes place, it has to go to the Ministry of Municipal Affairs for their review and approval, as they have the final say. And then the implementation, and that goes with everything that has been put forward, will continue to be rolled out in the form of community design guidelines that still need to be prepared, zoning bylaw updates as they pertain to all this height strategies that we are putting forward, future studies reviews, transition to new policing framework, as well as an affordable housing needs assessment. Thank you.
Thank you for your presentation, Alexis and Ute. We will hold all questions until the staff report is on the floor for discussion. Can I have a mover and seconder to receive the delegation? Moved by Councillor Howe, second by Councillor Vardy. Resolved that the presentation from O2 Planning and Design be received. All in favor? That's carried. All right, can I have a mover and seconder to get the staff report on the floor? Moved by Councillor Frake, second by Councillor Davoli. Questions from council? Yeah. Staff needs to come up. Yeah. All right, go ahead. Sorry, Kirsten.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor and council for this evening. I just want to thank our consultants for the presentation and all the work that's gone into the official plan to date. This is our third draft of the official plan. We did want to release the third draft and give the opportunity for additional input from the public. A significant amount of work has gone into the preparation of the official plan. and getting to this final draft. We've done a significant amount of consultation, as well as referenced by Alexis in the presentation. There's been a number of engagement opportunities through public information centers, threats, walking tours, and also our formal public meeting. So I just wanted to highlight all of the engagement that's gone into to date, and also reference the work has been documented through the staff reports. The first staff report at the public meeting in February, an update report in April to Planning and Development Committee highlighted the changes from the first draft to the second draft, and now the report before you this evening highlights the changes further to the plan through this third draft. So that's just a high-level overview, and we're happy to take any questions.
Great, thank you, Kirsten. We'll start with Councillor DeFlavio.
Thank you, Mayor. Through you, it's just questions right now, right? Not comments? Okay. So, first of all, thank you, Kirsten.
Yeah, it can be questions or comments.
Okay,
Yeah.
so
Go ahead.
Clearly, you're all listening because you keep coming back with different revisions. First, I just want to ask a few questions. So, Ute, you talked about affordable housing and attainable housing strategies. Now, I know we're limited to what we can actually put in the official plan. So are we clearly setting our next step then as, a housing strategy, an affordable housing strategy that can deliver on what we're, and have we explored it to the fullest extent that we can within the official plan framework, so that way we can build on it with that strategy once we're done this? And of course, we got to do zoning, but, how does that, where do we go from here with that, I guess is my first question.
Through you, Mr. Mayor, and I will also invite Kirsten to answer, but from the official plan perspective, the most important component will be to outline the percentages of affordable. We don't know the full extent of the definition of attainable, but at least affordable housing that we can include into an official plan. So the commission of a strategy that really further enables the unrolling of a strategy is something that we see being implemented across the region, and I find it helpful. But from the official plan perspective, it's exactly having very clear parameters of what are your minimum percentages, whether it's for rental or ownership housing, of affordability that the town is considering when approvals come into place. That number needs to be included, and that's what sets the stage for the whole asking on how do you get that 20 or that 10.
Thank you. Through you, Mr. Mayor. So yes, just to build on Ute's response, we are including the definition of affordable housing within the official plan, and we are including the percentages that we're carrying that forward from the region's Niagara official plan. But the intent following the adoption of the plan and ultimately the approval of the plan would be to do some more detailed work on housing needs, to look at what our current supply is in terms of different types of housing units, and looking at specifically what Grimsby needs in terms of providing direction for affordable and attainable housing. And that would come forward through a study and an additional amendment to the official plan when we have those details.
Thank you, Mayor. Through you. What I'm getting from that is what we've understood before, and that is that what's affordable in Grimsby is not the same as what's affordable in another municipality, and it'll be based on the data that
Sorry, I can add to that, actually, through you, Mr. Mayor. So we do actually have more details when we're looking at developments that want to put in affordable units. So through the DC Act, there was a bulletin that was released that specifies affordable prices or affordable rates for all municipalities. So if we were looking at implementing affordable units, we would seek to look at the affordable rates within that bulletin and implement that through an affordable housing agreement. So just kind of following it through the process, we will have the policies within the official plan, But when we're looking at development applications or implementing affordable units and applying affordable incentives, we would be looking at those rates.
Thank you, Mayor. Thank you for the clarification, Kirsten. Through you again. So Ute did and Bianca actually at the Heritage meeting did a really good job of explaining the Grimsby Beach concerns. But I think that I still don't think that everybody's understanding how the new official plan will replace the secondary plan. So and again, I hate to beat a dead horse, but I think that it's important that everybody understands step by step how one replaces the other. So, this is the time to have that conversation, and I think if you don't mind, whether it's Alexis or Ute or Kirsten, whoever can elaborate on that a little bit further and really kind of get into the weeds a little bit more about and the details about how one replaces the other, I think that would make people feel a little bit more comfortable about the transition.
Kirsten, yeah, go ahead with that one.
Sure, thank you. Through you, Mr. Mayor. So yes, we have heard from a number of residents and received a number of submissions related to Grimsby Beach. We do recognize the importance of Grimsby Beach, and we want to ensure that we are including a policy framework that's going to support and guide that heritage preservation. Through our consultation with the province, it was recommended that we remove secondary plans for the official plan going forward for approval by the minister. So that is what we did. We incorporated the policy direction in that area-specific policy. We have tested those policies, but we have been going through a series of exercises internally with staff. So looking at development applications that might come in or that have come in the past and using the new official plan to test those policies. So, and we will continue to do that with the third draft before we bring forward the final recommendation. So the way that we've taken the secondary plan, we've consolidated the policies where there's duplication. We've included all of the definitions and directions for the different areas of that secondary plan. So the core area, I think it's northwest and the southwest areas, we've included that direction. We have the policy framework that's going to support and guide that heritage preservation and preserve that historic value of the area. We also, just I guess maybe to clarify, the site plan would only be applied to areas where there's that commercial or institutional type of development. We can no longer use site plan control for individual properties. However, within this current zoning and what we would include in a future zoning exercises to ensure that we will maintain the permissions right now, and that we can utilize other planning tools that will help to ensure that compatible development will happen within that area.
Thank you, Mayor, through you. So thank you for the clarification, and the internal testing makes me feel a little bit more comfortable. It might be for the next term of council, it might be time for council to explore a heritage district for that area to kind of use that umbrella. If it's a place, it's an area, I'm comfortable with your explanation, but at the same time, from a heritage perspective and being a heritage person, I would like that further protection. So maybe it's time to explore with the residents again the idea of a heritage district in that area. So last thing I wanted to say, Mayor, was I find myself returning. I apologize for being late. I was listening to everything on the way in. I had graduation at school, so I tried to make it as fast as I could. People kept using the word evolution, and I agree that Grimsby has to evolve, but I heard it's interesting because I heard people from opposite sides of the spectrum using the word evolution. The people from the Home Builders Association, people from the opposite side saying evolution, but and communities aren't frozen in time, and I get that, but evolution is a gradual process. It occurs through small changes over time. It doesn't happen overnight, and each step has to be built upon what's already existing. And I still don't think we're there when it comes to the downtown. I still don't think 8 is an appropriate number for the number of stories for the downtown. I think a downtown that's historically been defined by 2, 3, and 4-story buildings at the most can evolve to straight from that to 8 stories. So I still, I understand that 4 might not be it anymore, right? But I think that 6 has to be it. And I think that 6 has to be it because then when somebody comes in with 7 or 8, they're going above what we've already set. If we set 6 as the maximum, we know we're going to see more, but 6 is the maximum allows us to say 6 is the maximum that we want to see in the downtown and have something to start with. I'm also concerned that we're overlooking some of the missing middle still in this plan, and I'll put that in writing and before the final revision stuff comes in. The duplexes, triplexes, and fourplexes, townhouses, stacked townhouses, the stuff that it's all either high rises or detached or semi-detached in Grimsby, and we don't see a lot. I know that we have some of that inventory that exists from decades ago when it was being built in the 50s and 60s, but we don't have any recent evidence of that. So I think that whatever we can do to promote some of that middle is important. I'll put a lot of what I have to say in writing, Mayor. The other thing I wanted to say, though, is around the GO station, and I'll keep it quick. Growth is important, but so is context. And I think that around the GO station, we can't go from that giant. We have to consider the existing neighborhoods, and I'm concerned about those giant buildings that are being allowed in the GO station area, beside Greenbelt and beside single detached subdivisions, without any kind of transition, without any kind of consideration of people who've lived there for decades. So I know that you've addressed some of that. I just think Casablanca Boulevard, for example, might be a place that we want to explore in more depth and create specific policies for the whole of Casablanca Boulevard. I'll put the rest in writing. Thank you, Mayor. Sorry for all most of it was questions.
Kirsten, you want to respond still?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I was just going to go back to one of the earlier points from Councillor DeFlavio about various tools and just reference that we did receive direction through council endorsement of the Heritage Committee minutes to look at those tools and come back with a report.
Who wants to go next? Councillor Frake.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. There's not much to cover now that Nick's covered it all. So maybe I'll just reiterate some of what he's already said. The whole council has been inundated with letters and emails and phone calls and texts and so on and so forth related to the official plan. This is our third strike at it. But it all boils down to actually 3 or 4 different really serious things that people are really concerned about. And I'll speak to the beaches, first of all. I totally endorse what Councillor DeFlavio said. And I don't think we've yet convinced our beach area residents that the new official plan is going to give them protection once we take away the secondary plan. And I want to I just want to make sure that they are really, really comfortable and really understand what's going on and that they are covered for what their concerns are. That's really so important. We spent 2 terms of council or more working with the beaches on their secondary plan and the heritage document. So I just want to make sure that when they are totally 100% comfortable and understand that they are protected. So one thing I want to make sure that's in there. And I know this is something that Councillor DeFlavio also said. The other big thing I think we're hearing about is where the intensity is in terms of the downtown area. And I do think that 12 stories is rather high. And I don't know why we have both. We can have 8 stories, but we can go to 12 depending on site plan and so on and so forth. Why don't we just cap it? Why do we even have to go to mentioning that we can go to 12? Can we just cap it at 8 or 7 and just go from there? Because it kind of leaves it open a bit, and I think that's another big concern that people have. And I think we need to cover that off. I know we can't do that tonight, but so hopefully we will be able to do that. Kirsten, I don't know if you want to comment on any of that. You probably have a little bit already. Go ahead. I have a couple of comments as well.
Thank you, and through you, Mr. Mayor. Yes, we have received lots of comments related to the downtown neighborhood designation and the building heights. One of the ways that we were looking at addressing those comments is capping it at the 8 with the ability to go to 12 through certain permissions. Following through on like our planning tools, that would mean within the zoning, it would be capped at a building height of 8 stories. It would require a zoning bylaw amendment. So it would be a public process, and the policies in the official plan would apply through that public process for the applicant to demonstrate why 12 would be appropriate. So that was the approach that we've taken for the downtown district or downtown neighborhood area. And just to, I guess, reinforce Ute's point earlier, the policies within the plan, it does have to clarify that taller buildings up to 12 stories is within the downtown neighborhood designation only, not for all of the downtown designation. So that clarity is required within that policy.
If I could follow up. So in terms of intensification, if we can't accommodate the intensification that we want in the downtown area and district, can we just up the intensity to offset those numbers over in another area, like maybe around where the GO train's going or down by Casablanca and areas like that? So if we take down the size of the buildings and the intensification in the downtown area, can we up the numbers in another area to accommodate the forecast, which is 51,000? And we all know that 51,000 is a projection. And at the end of the day, it's going to be the market that's going to dictate how many houses get built in this town or any town for that matter. So it may be pie in the sky, it may not be, but 51,000 is the number we have. So I don't know if we'll ever get to that number. Maybe we will. And 25 years is a long time. I mean, look what happened. Look how the world's changed in 1 year. So, it is really put your finger up into the wind, and hopefully you got the right direction. So I don't know. It'll be market dictated at the end of the day. So I don't know if you can. So in terms of intensification, can we shift intensification to another area to offset the intensification downtown area?
Through you, Mr. Mayor, I mean, I think it's a good point, and I appreciate the comments. Part of the feedback that we did receive through the engagement was that people wanted to live in the downtown. So that's reflected in the plan right now. We also have to keep in mind that by increasing some of the population in the downtown, that's going to support the businesses, is going to attract more businesses as well. There is a possibility, obviously, we're going to have to be tracking our numbers over time. So we do need to, once we have our official plan in place, we're going to be monitoring and tracking how growth is occurring, where it's occurring, making sure that we have the appropriate infrastructure, and that's being rolled out at the same time as well. So typically an official plan, a brand new official plan under the Act, is reviewed at a 10-year mark. I would suggest that we check in at the 5-year mark, and we have a continuous monitoring program where we're reporting to council on different KPIs.
Thank you. We keep talking about downtown as if we have only one downtown. We do have two downtowns. And the businesses over on the Casablanca area, there's probably as many or more businesses in the Casablanca area than there is in downtown over here. And so we need to ensure that we include that language in our official plan. I mean, because I live down there now, so I hear it all the time. So whenever I go down, walk across the street for a pizza, whatever the case might be, I'm listening to the merchants. And they're not recognized as being a downtown, even though we call them a Grimsby on the Lake downtown. So, I mean, I just want to make sure we kind of fit them into this puzzle as well. A couple of questions. Do we have a deadline for submission of the official plan? Is there a deadline that is legislated to us by Queen's Park or?
Through you, Mr. Mayor. So based on the legislation, we are supposed to have our plan in conformity with provincial policy and I guess the regional official plan within a year of the region approving it, but that has now been downloaded to us. So we now have the Niagara official plan as well. Getting our plan approved as soon as possible puts us in a good position, having clear direction and policy that's in conformity with provincial direction, provincial plans, and legislation will put us in a much better position. It will also allow us to undertake the work that we need to do in terms of community design guidance and updating our zoning bylaw and all of the other tools that would support the official plan. So I would say that technically under the Act, the legislation is a year after a regional plan is approved, but we're past that and we now actually have the regional plan. I would say it is important to get the plan approved as soon as possible.
In this term. One final question. If we don't pass the official plan, if we can't agree and it doesn't get passed, can we operate without an official plan? I mean, how complicated is that? And this is my final question, Mr. Mayor.
Through you, Mr. Mayor. So we are operating with an official plan. The current official plan that we have that was adopted by Council in 2009 and approved by the OMB in 2012 will remain in place until the new official plan is approved by the minister.
Thank you, Kirsten, and thanks to your staff. I know you guys have put a huge amount of work into this. Thank you so much. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Councillor Vardy.
Thank you. Through you, Mr. Mayor. A couple of questions. Somewhere in there, Ute, you had a number of, sort of a population number for downtown, a number that you wanted to hit for downtown. I can't remember which slide that it was on.
You, Mr. Mayor. So we have persons and jobs allocated for the downtown,
Okay.
125
125
persons and jobs
per hectare.
per hectare.
Okay, and do you know what it is now? Because I guess where I'm going with all this is, we have the Wolverton that's going up. We have Century condos that are almost done. We have something that's going to go up on John. Not sure how high, how big, whatever, because it hasn't come to us yet. Although we've had big numbers put forward that are kind of pie in the sky. So I'd like to know, with what is coming on very shortly, are we going to be hitting that mark fairly soon, that 125 per hectare? Do we know what we are today and what we will be with those three properties? And then sort of just to give us a sense of how much more growth in the downtown that we are kind of envisioning to meet that kind of number.
Through you, Mr. Mayor, I think that's the direction we can take forward. I don't have the exact number of where we are as persons and jobs per hectare and how much persons and jobs per hectare with the pipeline as it is.
Yes.
So, that's
That's one thing I'd like to know. The second thing is, do we have an area of intensification down by the new school? Because there's lots of property there, and, that's where you're going to see families want to be located near a school, that we should have an area of intensification for that area, not just downtown, not just Go Station. There should be one there as well.
Thank you for those comments, through you, Mr. Mayor. So down by the new West Niagara Secondary School, if that's the school you're speaking of, I assume, it is identified as a node. So that was part of the comments that Ute made about the employment area along Iroquois Trail. It is part of the corridor, so we will see some intensification along the Main Street corridor. And within that node area, there is a higher persons and jobs per hectare along the corridor and within the nodes than the rest of the neighborhood area.
So why don't we make it similar to what we're envisioning for downtown, because that's kind of another sub-area that definitely could be developed. I worry that a node is not enough. Cool. And then,
Sorry.
did you want to respond to that, or?
Yeah, I can, yes. Thank you, through you, Mr. Mayor. My understanding is that the intensification areas were identified as the protected major transit station area around the GO and the downtown. And that was through intensification work that was done previously prior to this current draft of the official plan, as well as a health center area. I don't believe that was ever identified by the consultants or directed by council to investigate a center area around the new high school.
I think it's worth looking at. And then I guess the last thing, that you're saying, well, we'll make the zoning for downtown 8 stories. And people would need like a ZBA to go higher. But we know if you say 8, developers are going to want 10. If you say 6, they'll probably reach for 8. If you say 12, they'll want 14. So I think we should cap it at a lower number, not 8, because we know when developers see 8, they see 10 or more. So I think we really need to bring it down so that area of like give and take on the town's part shrinks a little bit. Because I think we know we'd just like to have 6, but we also know if anybody goes to OLT, they're going to get whatever they want. So at least if we cap it at 6, that's going to be harder to make a case for 10. So I vote in favor of bringing that number down. That's it for me.
Councillor Charwa.
Through Mayor Jordan, thank you. So I'm going to thank the councillors that have identified the number one issue that I'm going to ask for is for us to cap the downtown at 6. No clauses, no opportunity for 12, nothing. Absolutely nothing more than 6. Unless 8 is like the absolute highest. I don't even want to see that. I'd prefer it to be 6. But no opportunity to allow for 12 or anything above 6. And I would say we keep hearing the same thing. It's the downtown. And I've been talking about this since we started. I was disappointed to see that this 12 stories was still, after all of the talks and all of the comments and the feedback from the community, that we're still having this on the third draft. There's been so many improvements, but this is one that is going to haunt us forever. So this is one that I'm going to ask that when this comes to council on July 16th, that we have it split so that we're approving all the different areas. Because this one I don't think council will agree to, which I'm very happy to hear, because that is definitely the talk of Ward 3 residents, and I would say just the community as a whole. So that's my thought on that one. Just with the language, and I've spoken about this before, I'd like it to be a stricter, and we have made improvements with the shoulds and shalls. Priority being that the language surrounding density, stories, and parkland are very clear. I don't want any ambiguity in that language. If we're talking the aesthetic piece, that, professional opinion, that part I will leave to staff. But I feel like, there should be some certainty, like Bridget had said, for the community. So I would just like to tighten up any of those little gray areas. In the one section, it says that a future affordable and attainable housing strategy may establish additional policies. So my fear here is if we've built this in that the provincial government is going to come up with some wishy-washy policy to allow something that is not attainable, call it attainable, and add more stories. So again, this is something that, professional opinion, if you can just tighten that up so that that is not an opportunity for extra density under affordable housing that will not actually be affordable housing. And last comment, actually, sorry, one more. So we're going to grow another 20,000. We have a part-time firefighting department right now. Is there another fire department that's built into this when we have to go to full-time? Kirsten?
Thank you for the question, through you, Mr. Mayor. So we have been consulting with all staff departments, including fire, and my understanding is that that is part of their, overall plan for obviously ensuring there's appropriate coverage for the community. So we have had those discussions with the fire department. We, through the official plan, there is policy direction for community service facilities and providing those opportunities. Those are ongoing discussions, though.
Okay, thank you. And just last comment, can you just walk us through your communication with the provincial government? Because, you know, a lot of times there's, and I do blame the province a little bit for this. They will pretend as though this is all the municipality when we know it's really the province. So here we have an opportunity, and I know that you guys have gone back and forth with the province, and you've helped them. They've given guidance as far as what they would like to see. And when this is approved, I want us to go back to the province again and say, hey, reminder, this is what you've approved. We don't want to see this come to the OLT and people get their way after. So can you just walk us through communications right now so people are clear that it's actually the province that told you to do a lot of this, so we can hold them accountable if developers later go to the OLT, even though this is a super progressive plan, we're going to hold them accountable so that their appointed representatives are not going to approve these OLT applications and appeals.
Thank you for the question, through you, Mr. Mayor. So our official plan is required to be in conformity with provincial legislation, policy, and all of the provincial plans that are applicable for the town of Grimsby. So that is the case. We've been incorporating that direction. We've incorporated the direction from the Niagara official plan as well through our engagement process. So we do have to send the plan to the province for their review. The Ministry of Municipal Affairs and Housing does a one-window review for us. So they reach out to all the other ministries and provides the comments in a consolidated format to us. Those are all included in the package. The long packages that Lauren was very gracious to put together and include in the report that provides the details of the comments that were received and how they've been incorporated. We've had several meetings with them and conversations with how we've incorporated the comments where we've had questions or we've needed further clarification. We've reached out to them. In particular, with the secondary plans, I know that's been a hot topic of discussion with the community. We wanted to ensure that there was policy that remains in the plan to provide direction that's going to support the Grimsby Beach, and that does recognize all the work that's gone into creating that secondary plan and ensuring those policies remain and exist within our official plan. We did not want to run into the issue of sending a plan with the secondary plan and having that removed by the province before it's approved, or the issue of having our old official plan remain in place so that the secondary plan policies can continue, because then that could create confusion between various plans. So the path forward was to incorporate the policy to ensure there's policy direction within the plan. So we do know that we have a little bit of an opportunity to talk with the province about how we're making those changes and getting their guidance. Once we send it to them, they are the approval authority. We will be in a better position, as I mentioned earlier, that having a clear, consistent, and up-to-date plan that's in line with provincial policy will put us in a good position for any future development applications.
Thank you, Kirsten. Thank you, everybody.
Councillor Cristiangi.
Thank you, through you, Chair. Thank you very much for some of the heights you've already reduced, in particular in the Magnolia, Gage, Cedar, James area, reducing that from 6 to 3. I think that's a great decision. I'm still not happy with downtown. I'll tell you my concerns. I feel like 8 is still too high. I feel like it should be capped at 6. I feel like there should be no clause for 12 whatsoever. The province already allows increased height and density for affordable or rental, I believe. So if it's capped at 6, there's already that sort of provincial allowance. I feel like 8 is still too high. Main Street, I would like to see capped at 4. No allowance to 6 whatsoever. I think in keeping with the heritage, Main Street itself should be capped at 4. Language, I hear the delegates, and I absolutely love what Bridget said. I wrote it down. Residents want what is expected, not encouraged. And I think clear direction and clear language is clearly something that residents want to see in this official plan. Tree canopy. So I've had residents bring up that they would like to see a tree canopy policy within the official plan. I believe Town of Pelham has it. We sit, if I remember correctly, at about 5% of a tree canopy, where 30% is a healthy. So I know that residents would like to see something like that in the official plan. And Grimsby Beach. Okay, I won't go over what everybody's already said, but what I will say, we've had many conversations about this. What I would like to request is release of the communication with the province. I think that it's not that people don't believe you, it's just, I think that because other municipalities are keeping secondary plans, and there's a lot of information out there, Fort Erie, I think, has theirs, Niagara Lake is, submitting but keeping, and I think that's creating a lot of the confusion and sort of that uneasiness about it, and I think if we could sort of release where the province has told us this is what we want to see, then residents will feel a little more comfortable with that. I'm not sure if that's possible, or we could communicate with them to let us know. That is something that I would like to see.
Thank you. Councillor DeVoley.
Thank you, Mayor Jordan. Most of the comments have been made, and I will say that I agree with them. But I would just like some clarification from our Director of Planning about the 12 stories. And I know we keep circling back, but is it the province who is setting those guidelines, saying 12 stories, or is that just a number we came up with? Maybe you can just give us some background and how it ties into the provincial policies.
Thank you for the question, and through you, Mr. Mayor. So the 12 stories came about looking at the built form of the official plan. So we had included policies that spoke to mid-rise within the downtown, and particularly the downtown neighborhood area. Within that mid-rise, it allowed for up to 12 stories. In receiving the comments from the first draft and the second draft of the official plan, we looked at ways that we could ensure that we were developing or seeing appropriate development within the downtown neighborhood area. And that's where we came up with the policy direction that would allow for growth and development within that area. And have those performance measures that would be applied through a development application in the future. I think it's important to remember as well that the downtown neighborhood area does apply to 3 different areas of our overall downtown district within the the official plan. The secondary plan on my brain. The official plan. And that includes like south of Main Street along Elm Street. It includes up Ontario Street and the John Street area. And then it also includes the plaza, the Sobeys Canadian Tire Plaza with the former Central School site as well. So looking at a policy framework that's going to support growth and development on all 3 of those downtown neighborhood designations.
So as follow-up to that, I think for many of us, as we get farther away from the core of downtown, between Christie and Elm, I'll say, we probably become a little more comfortable with more stories, but not within the immediate downtown. And so I guess I'm still circling back to the 12. If we get challenged by a developer and they say, well, we still meet your exceptional criteria and we should still have 12, do you think that the province would be more supportive of 12 than if we simply kept it at 8 or 6 or whatever the number is we come up with?
Through you, Mr. Mayor, I think that's a difficult thing to respond to at this point in time because I don't know what the application would be or the context. What I can say is that we would have a current official plan in place that provides policy direction and guidance for growth in specific areas. It would come down to what the development is, what supporting information they provide, and how it meets the overall intent of the official plan. So it is really important that we don't look at individual policies. You do have to read the official plan in its entirety and apply every policy that applies to the specific property or area. So they would have to demonstrate that it does meet the overall intent of the official plan. And like I said earlier, we have identified both the protected major transit station area and the downtown as intensification areas, although obviously the protected major transit station area is going to be a higher density and a more intense development that's going to support the GO station.
I think my concern is that, similar to my fellow councillors, that when we leave 12 out there, of course, then a potential developer comes along and tries to find every argument they can to meet the criteria that we have set for exceeding 8 and going up to 12. And even if we restrict it to 8, I think my concern is still, will the province come back, even in the review of our official plan, and say, well, 8 is simply too low. You need to change this, this, and this. And so, do you have any, I guess I'll try and summarize my question and my concern. Do you have any concerns or thoughts at what the provincial reaction will be to an official plan that does and maxes out at 6 or 8 and does not allow 12 at all?
Through you, Mr. Mayor, I do think the province does recognize that there are different contexts for official plans because each official plan is based on the requirements of that local municipality. I don't know that they would look at specific building heights as long as overall we're achieving our direction of accommodating growth, accommodating employment, ensuring that we have a mix of built form and different types of housing, that we have opportunities to accommodate that growth. I think that's the overall direction that the province is looking for.
Councillor Bradzi.
Thank you, Mayor. Through you. I just wanted to ask for a little clarity on the process. So is it once council approves the official plan, then it goes to the review period with the minister? And can the minister reject our official plan?
Through you, Mr. Mayor. So once council adopts the official plan, we do have to send the record. So that's the required information to the province. And then it goes to their staff for review. It is posted on the ERO, so it is open for any public input as well. So they will receive any comments or submissions from residents or organizations through that process. And then the minister would be making a decision on our official plan.
Okay, and lastly, I won't repeat any of the downtown comments, but I agree. But do we at all fear that the minister would reject it, or how do we feel about how they would stand with where we're currently at, draft 3?
Through you, Mr. Mayor. Sorry, I realized that I forgot to answer that part of the question. So the ministry will modify the plan as they see appropriate to implement any conformity requirements for the official plan with provincial legislation or policy. I don't see them rejecting the official plan because I do think that it is implementing, in its current form right now, is implementing the direction and requirements of the province.
Councillor Howe.
Thank you, through you, Chair. On page 16, I believe your report, there's a mention there of the cannabis and hemp. Can we, if we've got an opportunity to tighten that up, maybe a little bit more so? Lauren?
I just, through you, Mr. Mayor, thank you so much for the question. I wanted to speak to that specifically. I would say that the policy set actually has been tightened pretty considerably. Not only does it speak to cannabis, but it also speaks to industrial hemp, as well as lists a number of other requirements and I believe management plans as well that would be required. So even based off of the current policies that are in the current plan, this is actually a tightening, I see, of those policies.
Okay, to follow up on that, it's my understanding that the one right by, that's feeding the high school, like into the, and that wasn't very nice. As it could be, that could be taken away with the proper fan ventilation systems that were not put in there, weren't required. But there is a way it can be handled. It can be handled, that the skunk smell, but there has to be a willingness on the part of whoever goes ahead with it. But it is noxious and it is not very pleasant, and leave it that. We mentioned a campground as well. Have we got a campground?
Through you, Mr. Mayor. Yes, so there are a number of private campgrounds that already exist in the town. That's a use that's already permitted through the current official plan. So as we were reviewing, we realized that we wanted to ensure that that permission could still be there.
Going to have, it's interesting. But lastly, I guess, and I'll have my kick at the stories, and I confirmed with Kirsten, my house, where it sits, is right on the edge. It could be 12 stories at my house. And, you know, when you come to that realization, you go, that's just a whole lot, because, I mean, that probably to about the escarpment height, just so far out of, but the context of the town and what you want the town and try to keep it like that. So I have trouble even with 6 on that side of Elm Street. And that's not because I can make money off my property, because I'll be dead before anybody does that down in there. So, no, don't you hope. Anyways, you know, it is. It comes, you know, when we talk about the base of the escarpment, I know that been the sun in Sydney. And Sydney is like that, but it's happened over time. But they don't go real high. They go 4s and 6s along there. Makes quite different. But they stay away from that. They bring them away from the escarpment. And I would see no reason whatsoever to ever put something along the base of the escarpment. So that's about it. But Lauren, thank you very much. Kirsten, thank you very much. You guys have nailed it.
Councillor Korstanji.
Thank you, through Chair. I just wanted to touch on the employment area in both downtown and downtown Grimsby-on-the-Lake. So in the downtown area, the innovation area is a maximum of 10 stories. And that's in like the Ontario, Clark Street, Lincoln Avenue. I feel like that's way too much density for that area. Really dangerous traffic area, and I feel like adding that height there doesn't fit, and it won't be safe. I'd like to see that height swapped with the downtown Grimsby on the Lake area, though, because they have the same employment areas, but their maximum is only 4 to 6 stories, and there's a division of the railway tracks between the neighborhood, so it's not going to affect the neighborhood beside it, and on the other side, the maximum is 22 stories. So I feel like the height of 10 stories in the Grimsby on the Lake density area would fit better, and just swapping the height with the one downtown to the maximum of 6, and then having the other one 10.
All right, and seeing no further questions, we can make that decision to change the downtown to 6 with a resolution right now and give council direction.
I'd be happy. Yeah, I'd be happy to do that.
Can we have Main Street kept at 4?
You have to make an amendment.
We've got Councillor Vardy's second and Councillor Charwal moving it.
You can read it out if they want to make an
Yeah, I'll read it out, and if we want to make an amendment, that's up to council. Resolve that council direct staff that the height be no more than 6 stories in the downtown district, and staff provide details of any implications to this change in the final recommendation. So we happy with that?
Do you want me to build, do we want to add in review the downtown employment areas for building heights?
Yeah, we could do that. We could review the downtown employment area and building heights as well. That could be added in.
I'd like that, plus I just like Main Street. Thank you, through Chair. Yeah, I'd like to see the employment area capped, because if we're capping at 6, we don't want to be going up to 10. But the other thing, I'd like to see Main Street itself remain at a 4-story height limit.
You're okay with that? Great. So, well, I have to read it as amended now, so.
And sorry, can we also do this as a recorded vote as well? Is it possible? Thank you.
Go ahead.
Through you, Mayor. So I agree with 6 stories in what we consider the traditional downtown. So anything Ontario Street, Christie, that area. We have there. I think Kirsten spoke to it. The Canadian Tire Plaza and the Old Central Public School site. That in order for that site to be worthy of redevelopment, might require higher density. So I don't know if we want to make an exception for that site or not, because I believe that that's considered part of the downtown and not something that I don't think that, I'm speaking for me. That's not something that I think of when I think of the downtown. I think that those are sites that are appropriate for higher density and would require higher density in order for redevelopment to occur. So I think that needs to be an exception. I think that we need to define what we mean by the downtown. I agree with Councilor Gorstanji about 4 stories on Main Street. I agree with 6 stories. That's why I brought it up in the first place. But there are a couple of sites that we need to be flexible on, and I think that those sites are ones that we might want to leave out.
Councillor DeFoley, do you have a comment on this resolution?
I was just going to agree with that. That's what I was sort of alluding to before when I say as we get farther out from the core of the downtown, I am more amenable to adding more stories. So maybe the wording of the resolution needs to be just to refer it back to staff to look at that suggestion that we have and then to come back to us in the next draft.
Councillor Charwal.
I'm fine with Councillor DeFlavio's point for that specific area, but I just want to, I don't know if we can do this almost separately. I don't know if that would help, so that we define the 6-story cap in the other area, but I don't know if that's through a friendly amendment. I just want to make sure that that part is not referred back to staff.
The clerk's just working on the
Okay,
wording
thank you.
right now, so. Councillor Frake?
No, I just wanted to suggest, Mr. Mayor, that if we pass a general motion, we just might leave something out that we need to put in. And if we make it too general, I mean, I think sending it back to staff to have a look at, if there's a pocket of areas like that we can exclude, and we might box ourselves in.
Councillor Sharwa?
So again, I don't know if it would be helpful to separate this as two separate motions, because I agree, if the second part, if we want to bring that to staff, I just want to make sure that the 6-story clause is separate and that's dealt with today, if that's possible. But I'm,
Because you don't know what the other areas might look like. You might include some of the areas in that. Yeah, if we pass the motion you're talking about, we could have an area in there which could qualify in the same instance as what Councillor De Flavio was talking about. That's what I'm saying. So that's why I think staff needs to look at it and see if there's a pocket or two of another areas in there which might qualify to go to the higher heights. We just have to be very careful we don't box ourselves in, that's all I'm saying.
All right, so if we split it into two, we have the first part with resolve that council direct the height be no more than 6 stories in the downtown district and 4 stories on Main Street, and staff provide details of any implications to this change in the final recommendation. And then if we split that out, the second part, that council directs staff to review the downtown employment areas for building heights, and that council directs staff to review the PMTSA and downtown employment areas. So if we have those as two separate resolutions, council's happy with that? All right. Okay. All right. So I'll read the first section first. Moved by Councillor Sharwa, second by Councillor Vardy. Resolved that council direct that the height be no more than 6 stories in the downtown districts and 4 stories on Main Street, and staff provide details of any implications to this change in the final recommendations. E-scribe's been asked for, so can we vote that way? All right, that is unanimously approved. Now, our second resolution, I'll just keep the same mover and seconder. Moved by Councillor Sharwa, second by Councillor Vardy. Resolved that council directs staff to review the downtown employment areas for building heights, and also direct staff to review the PMTSA and downtown employment areas. Use e-scribe, please, to vote for that. All right, that's carried unanimously as well.
Can we just do?
Is that a record for us? All right. We're just going to receive the report now. Moved by Councillor Frake, second by Councillor DeVoldy. Resolved that report PA 26-18, revised draft official plan, June 2026, dated June 1st, 2026, be received for information. All in favor? That's carried. Can I have a mover and seconder for the Mountain View Lemonade Day proclamation? Moved by Councillor Frake, second by Councillor Korstanji. Whereas Family and Children's Services, FACS Niagara, has been dedicated to protecting and supporting children and improving the lives of vulnerable children, youth, and families across Niagara Peninsula since 1898, and whereas Mountain View Building Group and other generous sponsors are supporting FACS Niagara Foundation in these efforts by encouraging children and families to give back to their community by registering online and setting up lemonade stands across the town of Grimsby and the Niagara region on Saturday, June 13th, 2026, and whereas Mountain View Building Group and other great community sponsors have generously provided 100 Lemonade Day kits so every family and child can have the resources needed to successfully participate, and so that all the funds raised by children go directly to sending vulnerable children supported by FACS Niagara to summer camps, and whereas by instilling the values of community, generosity, and goodwill in the next generation, Mountain View Building Group and other generous sponsors are helping build a brighter future for Niagara. And whereas the town of Grimsby commends the hundreds of young citrus-squeezing children for their philanthropy and hard work, generosity, goodwill, and for making our community a much better place to live, therefore be it resolved that I, Mayor Jeff Jordan, do hereby proclaim June 13th, 2026 as Mountain View Lemonade Day for FACS Niagara in the town of Grimsby. Be it further resolved that Council hereby encourages children of Grimsby to participate in the annual Mountain View Lemonade Day for FACS Niagara and encourages all citizens of Grimsby to support these children in their efforts by generously donating in person or online to the Mountain View Lemonade Day stands and help as many children from the Niagara region to experience summer camp in 2026. All in favor? That's carried. I would now like to take a moment to recognize Niagara's two LGBTQ plus communities and acknowledge Pride Niagara's leadership in fostering safer and more inclusive spaces, strengthening social connection, providing outreach and education, and advancing local advocacy throughout the region. Pride Month is not just a celebration, it is a powerful reminder of the progress we have made in embracing the beautiful tapestry of identities that make our community thrive. It is time to honor the struggles and triumphs of the 2SLGBTQ plus community and reaffirm our commitment to diversity, inclusion, and acceptance. Thank you, Pride Niagara, for all the work that you do for the residents of Niagara. Today, let us celebrate diversity, promote acceptance, and foster a town where love knows no boundaries. Together we can create a future where everyone can live authentically and proudly. Thank you and happy Pride Month. Can I have a mover and seconder to receive the correspondence? Moved by Councillor Frake, second by Councillor Barty. Resolved that the correspondence from Pride Niagara be received. All in favor? That's carried. Can I have a mover and seconder for the confirming bylaw? Moved by Councillor Howe, second by Councillor Korstanji. Resolved that Lee Beginnen to introduce bylaw 26-37 and that same be read a first time, considered, and passed. All in favor? That's carried. Good evening, everyone. Meeting is adjourned. Have a good night.